Hello students, in the previous class we were discussing about the fourth chapter, that was the second phase of the Indian national movement. Then we studied about the partition of Bengal, anti-partition movement and the Surat split. When we studied about the Surat split and anti-partition movement, we studied about the assertive nationalist. In this class today we are going to study about the assertive nationalists in detail. What are the causes for the rise of assertive nationalism? Who are the assertive nationalists? What were the methods followed by them? What were the objectives of the assertive nationalists? So now we have to study who are the assertive nationalists. Assertive nationalists are a new group of young leaders. They emerged within the Congress, but they did not agree with the methods and ideologies of the early nationalists. This new group of youngsters were called assertive nationalists. In the last class, we made a comparison between the ideologies and methods of the early nationalists and assertive nationalists. The early nationalists they were educated people, they were professionals, most of them were working under the British government. They had a faith in the sense of justice and fair play of the British. But the assertive nationalists were entirely different from them. Even though they were educated and qualified, they were not ready to be worked under the British government. They did not have any faith in the sense of justice and fair play of the British. And they considered British rule was a curse for the Indians, and one of the major reasons for the economic backwardness of India is the British rule. So, this ideological clashes between the youngsters in Congress and the senior leaders caused for a division in Congress that was for the emergence of assertive nationalism. So, once again, the definition for assertive nationalism. A new group of young leaders emerged within the Indian National Congress who did not agree with the methods and ideologies of the early nationalists were called assertive nationalists. These assertive nationalists were frequently called radicals or extremists. They were also called assertive nationalists. They were called assertive nationalists because they had a different outlook that advocated active resistance to the British imperialism. The approach and attitude of these young leaders caused for giving them this name. Their attitude and approach were entirely different from the early nationalists. They advocated active resistance. The early nationalists followed the constitutional methods of agitation, but assertive nationalists they are using active resistance, and sometimes they were following revolutionary methods of agitation. This is the reason to call them as assertive nationalists. Now the next topic is causes for the emergence of assertive nationalism. There are many causes. In the textbook, many causes are given. We are discussing about 8 important causes for the rise of assertive nationalism. The first cause of the rise of assertive nationalism was recognition of the true nature of the British. The early nationalists, through their writings and speeches, revealed the true color, true nature of the British rule. In the beginning, early nationalists had faith But later they came to know that the real reason for the economic backwardness of India is the British rule and their economic exploitation. They revealed this fact in their writings and speeches. This revelation, this recognition of the true nature of the British rule was the first reason for the emergence of assertive nationalism. Second one is failure of the early nationalists. The early nationalists, of course, they were responsible for giving the basement of nationalism in the mind of Indians. But their achievements were, the achievements of the early nationalists were very less. They were not able to make a concrete or tangible achievement. This failure, and the early assertive nationalists were not happy with the attitude and the methods followed by the early nationalists. So these failures were criticized by the young leaders, and the failure of the early nationalists played an important role for the emergence of the assertive nationalists. Third one, worsening economic condition of India. Due to the policy of economic exploitation, due to the defective taxation policy of British, famines became frequent visitors of India. In the last part of the 19th century, there were some severe famines that took the life of lakhs of people. When the people were suffering, the British government was not doing anything for the welfare of the people. This angered the younger elements of Congress. So the worsening economic condition in India played the third role for the rise of assertive nationalism. The fourth one, influence of international events. Till the 19th century, the Indians were thinking that the Europeans were invincible. But some international events changed that concept. For the first time in the history of the world, a small Asian country, Japan, defeated the Russians. Like this, many incidents changed the concept of the invincibility of the European supremacy. The Abyssinians in Ethiopia defeated Italians. The Boers in South Africa fought successfully against the British. The people of Ireland, they fought for home rule. So all these successful events inspired the Indians. So these international events influenced the Indians. They became determined and they decided to fight against the British, and they understood that the leadership of Congress given by the early nationalists is not sufficient. So the younger elements wanted to take the leadership of the Indian National Congress. The fifth cause is growth of education and employment. Growth of education and unemployment. In the 19th century, the British government offered job opportunities to the educated Indians. The educated Indians means the Indian youngsters who got Western education, who can communicate with the British in English. So they were given job opportunities. So the number of educated Indians in India increased day by day, but the job opportunities were not increasing proportionally. So many Western educated Indians became jobless. This unemployment among the educated Indians caused for dissatisfaction. They were looking for better job opportunities, and they understood that the younger elements in Indian National Congress, can give leadership for fighting for job and fighting for freedom. The next point is ill-treatment of Indians abroad. The British army was consisting of Indian soldiers. Many battles they won with the support of the Indian soldiers, but Indians were not respected. In India, they were treated as a second category of citizens. In the foreign countries also, especially in South Africa, the Indians were subjected to racial discrimination and ill-treatment. The hotels, clubs and parks in India and foreign countries where admission to the Indians were rejected. So this type of discrimination and ill-treatment of Indians abroad cause for dissatisfaction among the Indian youngsters. The next point is repressive colonial policies of Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon's 7 years of governor generalship in Bengal was filled with repressive measures. We studied about the partition of Bengal. Along with the partition of Bengal, some acts were passed by Lord Curzon, which was again they were against the interest of the Indians. Some of the acts were the Indian Universities Act, the Corporation Act, Official Secrecy Act. All these were against the freedom of the Indians. The last one, or we can say that the immediate cause of the emergence of assertive nationalism was the partition of Bengal. The man behind the partition of Bengal was Lord Curzon. He decided to divide Bengal on the basis of religion in the year 1905. Then once the Indian freedom fighters understood the real motives behind the partition of Bengal, they started an anti-partition movement. But some of the programs of the anti-partition movement like the Swadeshi and boycott. Regarding the use of Swadeshi and boycott, there were confusion between early nationalists and assertive nationalists. So these were some of the factors responsible for the rise of assertive nationalism. So once again the points. First one, recognition of the true nature of the British rule, failure of the early nationalists, worsening economic condition, influence of international events, growth of education and unemployment, ill-treatment of Indians abroad, repressive colonial policies, the repressive policies of Lord Curzon, and partition of Bengal. The next topic is the objective of assertive nationalists. The objectives of the early nationalists we studied, they never demanded for independence from the British. They demanded Indianization of services, getting participation of Indians in administration, because they believed that, early nationalists believed that Indians are not able to rule India. So for the sake of India, the British should rule the country and Indians should get participation. But the objective of assertive nationalists was entirely different from the early nationalists. They demanded complete independence or Purna Swaraj. So remember, the objective of assertive nationalists was attainment of Swaraj or attainment of complete independence. The complete independence means India should be free from the British rule. Many colonies were there in the world which were ruled by the British. Some of the colonies were given freedom. The freedom was this colonies like Australia and New Zealand. They were given freedom, but these colonies were under the control of British government. The Indians needed complete freedom, complete independence. India should be given freedom from all type of interference in the administration. The freedom they demanded should not like the self-government as in the colonies of Australia and New Zealand. Freedom means complete independence of India. It should be free from the interference of British in any way. Then for attaining these objectives, the assertive nationalists followed some methods. Following are the methods followed by the assertive nationalists. There are four major methods followed by the assertive nationalists. First two we already studied, which were introduced for the first time in India in the anti-partition movement. These first two are Swadeshi and boycott. You are remembering the meaning of Swadeshi? Swadeshi means of one's own country. Here Swadeshi means the Indians are using the products made by the Indians only. Due to the defective economic policies, economic exploitation, many Indian industries were on the verge of collapse. People who were engaged in the handicraft and cottage industries, they were the economic condition of these people were very, it was very bad under the British rule. So when the assertive nationalists, they supported Swadeshi, it became a great boost for the Indian industrialists and the people who were working in the handicraft and cottage industries. So Swadeshi was the first method used by the assertive nationalists. Second one is boycott. Literal meaning of the word boycott is abstaining from the use of foreign goods. Foreign goods means not only the British products, all European products are to be boycotted. Instead of using foreign or European products, they are using Indian products. So by following boycott and Swadeshi, it is creating double impact. It is strengthening the Indian economy. It is supporting Indian industrialists and the people who are engaged in the handicraft. At the same time, it is destroying the British economy. So the first two methods were Swadeshi and boycott. The third method was national education. A national scheme of education was introduced by the assertive nationalists. There was a reason for introducing a national scheme of education. When the freedom struggle was intensified, many of the youngsters, many of the students from the schools, colleges and universities took part in the nationalist movement. These students were subjected to disciplinary action by the British authorities. Some of the students were suspended and some were dismissed from the schools and colleges. To help them, to provide them education, some schools and colleges were established throughout India by the assertive nationalists. Some of the educational institutions were established by Dayanand Anglo-Vedic Society, DAV schools and colleges. Many schools and colleges were established in different parts of India where Indian system of education was given. These educational institutions were free from the control of British authorities. So national education was the third method followed by the assertive nationalists. The fourth one is passive resistance. Passive resistance means a type of non-cooperation. The assertive nationalists advised the Indians not to cooperate with the British. This non-cooperation or passive resistance included non-payment of taxes, boycotting the British services, resigning from the British services, etc. These were the four main methods followed by assertive nationalists. They were Swadeshi, boycott, national education and passive resistance. Along with these four methods, there are three more methods followed by them. They are revivalism, personal sacrifices and mass involvement. Revivalism means reviving the Indian culture. compared the assertive nationalists and early nationalists, we studied that the early nationalists got inspiration from the European philosophers and thinkers. But the assertive nationalists, they drew the inspiration from the glorious past of India. So as a part of revivalism, the Indian rulers like Shivaji, Rana Pratap, Chandragupta Maurya, Chandragupta Vikramaditya, etc. was declared as national heroes. From them, these freedom fighters, the assertive nationalists and their followers drew inspiration. Tilak revived Shivaji festival and Ganapati festival in Maharashtra. It was a part of the method of revivalism. Second one is personal sacrifice. The assertive nationalists advise the people to sacrifice the job, their luxuries for the sake of the country. Along with this, they advise the people to be self-reliant. So personal sacrifice and self-reliance was the next method followed by assertive nationalists. Last one is mass involvement. The assertive nationalists were men of masses. The activities of the early nationalists were limited among the intelligentsia. The people from the upper class and upper middle class were contacted with the early nationalists. But the assertive nationalists were very close to the common people and they wanted to bring this common people, uneducated people and villagers to the freedom struggle. So they did something for ensuring mass participation and mass involvement. So these were the other three methods followed by the assertive nationalists. So this is the end of the second part of the fourth chapter. The third part is personality sketches. Like the third chapter, we have to study in detail about the three assertive nationalist leaders in detail. The assertive nationalist detail about whom we are going to study is Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal. That will be in the next class. Thank you.